Hello, and welcome to Unleash the Power of Agentforce. If you came looking for Unleash the Power of Copilot Actions, you're in the right place. As we've recently renamed Copilot Actions to Agentforce, reflecting some additional features and capabilities that we've put into the product that we're going to discuss in today's talk. My name is Nachum Klein, and I would be grateful, Shri, if you can set me back up. And I'm joined here by my colleague, Shri Srinivasan, who is also a member, like me, of the Salesforce Information Security team. Today, we're going to talk about various features and functionalities that do not yet exist in the product today. Please only make your purchasing decisions based on currently available features and functionality. We'd both like to start by thanking you, our audience who have come here from far and wide at great cost to time and effort, and as well as actual dollar cost, to be here to learn about Einstein Agentforce. We will do our utmost to repay your investment with dividends that will help you ensure that you can go out to your respective companies after Dreamforce and build your own Einstein agents. Today, we're going to start with the baseline of understanding what is Agentforce. And then, once we have that foundation, we're going to build on top of that and understand what are Einstein Copilot actions, also known now as agent actions, old habits die hard, and what they do and how they work. And then Shri is going to walk us through actually building Einstein agent actions. So it's going to be a jam-packed agenda. So let's get started. What is Agentforce? You can think of Agentforce as your own personal assistant that interacts with you conversationally, regardless of where you are inside of Salesforce. So you can ask it questions, you can query data, or you can ask it to perform actions on your behalf. We're going to see a lot more of that as we go through this talk. Because it's built on top of Salesforce's Einstein trust layer, what this means then is that every interaction with the large language model, the AI model, that may be external to Salesforce is audited, so you can see exactly what was passed to the AI model, the large language model, as well as what was received back and how we change the prompts potentially. As well as that, we also do things like detecting toxicity. So we have 7 different things that we look for in terms of perhaps hateful language or violence or so on. And we check whatever comes back from the large language model so that you can have a good degree of safety that the response is actually something that you can use. Agentforce is available within your flow of work. So whether you're on a home page or on a record page, regardless of where you are inside of Salesforce, you have the ability to interact with Agentforce to ask it to perform tasks as your assistant. And because it's sitting inside of your org, what this means then is that it understands your CRM data. It understands your data within Data Cloud. And therefore, as you ask it questions, it provides you an intelligent response that is grounded on your business, on your data, on the way that you do things within your organization. And just as Salesforce is providing some agent actions, beyond that, as we're going to see and learn in today's talk, you will have the ability to extend that to build your own agent actions. I'm sure some of you in the audience may be partners who build App Exchange offerings, so we're providing this capability to our partners as well, which means that the App Exchange offerings themselves will become more intelligent as our partners build these agents inside of their offerings as well. So here you can see an example where I click on that Einstein icon at the top, and out off the right side pops out a panel that I can interact with for Agentforce. And now I can ask it any question about my data. It may return a number of records. I can click on those links even within the Agentforce panel, and it will now navigate to that page. I can then just ask it any generic question. And because it knows the page that I'm on, it understands the context and is therefore able to give me an intelligent response that is based on the record that I'm looking at that given point in time. So As I navigate through Salesforce, it understands my context, and therefore it gives me relative responses for the context that I'm in. But even if I'm not on a record page, I can still ask Agentforce to, say, perform actions such as updating records or updating fields, as long as I give it sufficient contextual information to do those tasks. And this is going to be a common thread that we're going to hear a lot in today's talk, this concept of giving your agents sufficient contextual information. And some of the features that we've just recently rolled out in terms of enhancements are about doing exactly that, which makes Agentforce essentially a lot more powerful and intelligent than it previously was. And you can see that just like you can interact with it through the web UI, similarly you have a similar interface where you can interact with it on the mobile devices as well through this drawer that you can swipe up and then have a conversation with your agent in the same manner that you do on the web interface. But I don't need to use that right-hand panel at all. Here's an example of a Salesforce record and its account. And you can see there's this description field that has this sparkle icon. I can click on that sparkle icon and have Agentforce generate a description based on the fields on that particular record. So it becomes an actual reflection of that particular account because it's leveraging the fields on that record. So in that case, I'm not interacting through the panel. However, there may be scenarios where there may be more than one action that I can take, in which case, as you can see, I can click on the button to take the appropriate action. I can also interact with Agentforce through Einstein Search. So as I perform Einstein Search, I may get a prompt that says, would you like to continue in Agentforce? And the great thing is, both ways that you interact with Agentforce or Einstein, regardless of whether it's the Einstein Search or through Agentforce, are leveraging the same underlying features, capabilities, and services so that your interactions and your experience will be consistent regardless of how you interact with it. So now that we have a baseline understanding of Agentforce, what are agent actions? You can think of agent actions as a structured way to interact with Agentforce through that right side panel, whereby I can now provide one or more inputs to my agent. So at least one input would typically be that describe your task or ask a question box on the bottom. But as we're going to see in the demo, I can have additional inputs as necessary for the task that I want to accomplish. So then, based on that input, agent will now go and perform the tasks that it determines, more on that in terms of how it makes that determination, but that it determines is the right action to take, and then it provides you the output that you have described or configured it to provide as you created your agent, and we're going to see that as we build the agents. So as we look at the agents, there are really two types of agents, just like there are two types of objects. We're familiar with the standard objects that Salesforce provides, custom objects. We have the same thing with agents. There's a standard set of agents that Salesforce provides, and then there are the custom agents that you yourselves potentially can build to extend the functionality within your own orgs. So here you can see an example of within the standard actions, there are really two types. There is the platform actions, which you can consider as really low-level type of actions, such as maybe summarize a record or search for a record, very low-level actions. And then you have above that the cloud actions, where Service Cloud may have a need to summarize cases in a very different way than Sales Cloud has a need to summarize accounts or opportunities. So we have the ability then to take the lower level platform actions and extend them to provide additional capabilities without starting from scratch. You, as customers or partners, have the ability now to build your own actions, and you can do that in one of various ways. First, you can perhaps create a summarization. A great way to do that might be using a prompt template, and we're going to see an example of that in the demo. Alternatively, you may want to update some data or fields or records inside of Salesforce. For that, You may choose to use flows. We have a demo for that if we have time. Or you can leverage invocable actions using Apex. Either one gives you a little more flexibility in terms of now doing updates or more advanced types of interactions. So these are the building blocks, more on the building blocks soon, that will allow you to essentially create your own custom actions within Agentforce. So we talked about standard actions. Let's double click on that a little bit. In the summer release, here's what you got for standard actions. And you can see the ones with the individualized icons like the magnifying glass or the clipboard. Those are the lower level platform actions. And then the ones with the cloud icon are, not surprisingly, the cloud actions that essentially extend the lower level platform actions. Now, that's just a start, because just in a few weeks, as we roll out the Winter 25 release, you can see that the number of actions increases exponentially. And we will see additional actions as we roll out the spring and summer releases as well. So our goal and our aim is to deliver an ever-growing and increasing library of actions that you can leverage within Agentforce. So the question then arises, as we look at this growing list of actions that are out there, so many possibilities of things to do, when I ask Einstein to perform an action on my behalf, and it says, figuring out next steps, what's it doing? How does it know what actions to invoke? It seems like as the number of actions grow, that problem becomes increasingly difficult. And the answer is, it actually does the same thing you would do. So here I created a prompt template just to show this. And the prompt template, I realize it may be a bit of an eye chart, but the prompt template essentially has, here's a list of actions, and here's a list of descriptions, one description per action. And then I tell, in my prompt, Einstein, what would the plan be? What steps would you need to take to process the return of an item of merchandise and create a confirmation email? And what you would do is look at the actions and the descriptions, and based on your understanding of the descriptions, you would say, well, first I need to do this, and then that, and then the other thing. That is exactly what Einstein is doing. Now, inherent in that piece of information is one really important thing. I mentioned this thread of providing context to your agents. Clearly, that description that you are providing for the actions is what allows Einstein to determine what it needs to do. So the more concise, the more details that you can provide your agent in terms of this is what the agent is, this is its expected behavior, this is what it's expected to take in and return, the more you give it, the better results you will get, because Einstein will have a much better understanding of the actions that it needs to take. Which brings us then, I mentioned that we're going to get back to the building blocks, to another key capability that we're just rolling out, which is the concept of topics. So as we've had this large number of ever-increasing actions coming our way, we realized that we need to have a way to make Einstein smarter. We need to have a way to move away from this flat view of actions and instead have a more hierarchical view where I can take actions and group them into topics. And in so doing now, I can create some additional instructions at the topic level that tell Einstein, here is a general set of capabilities, which is the actions that will be within this topic. And here's what you will do with them. Here's how you should behave with them. Here is the scope of this topic. Here's what it will do, and here's what it will not do. So you essentially provide a description, you provide the scope, right? That description needs to be, again, descriptive. And then for each topic, you provide any number of instructions, as you can see on that middle box. And then I add my actions to that topic. What this allows me then to do is have separate topics, and this will then allow Einstein to become smarter, because before just looking at the various plethora of actions that it might be available for it to take, It now has a narrower, smaller set of topics, and now it will look at the topic first and figure out which topic to use, and then, based on that, it will leverage the actions within that topic. And you can see that here, where now I tell my agent, create an email to Alex. So as I tell the agent to create this email to Alex, a number of things occur. The first thing we need to do is the agent needs to determine, well, what topic should I use? So given my prompt or utterance, essentially my request to create an email for Alex, it goes and looks at all the topics, all of the instructions and descriptions for those topics, and it determines, hey, the best topic for this would be, surprise, communicate with customers. Now that it knows which topic to use, it then goes in and figures out the set of actions and which order. Implicit in this, though, is the understanding that before it even goes out to do anything, in order to determine which topic to use, it first needs to call the large language model, because that will allow it to then determine which topic to use based on the descriptions and scope and instructions that were provided for the topic. One of the features that we've added to make Einstein smarter recently is this concept of an enhanced planner, whereby every time we go to the execution engine, we come back, we gain additional context, and we use that context to go back and reinforce and see, do I still want to take this next step, or is there another next best step that I should take instead? So for example, in this creating an email to Alex, the first step we take is querying records. So I go out to the execution engine, and now I perform that query. When I do that, now I get a set of records back. One of two things may happen. Maybe there's no Alex. If there's no Alex, then I would want to go back to the conversation and say, sorry, no, there is no Alex here. On the other hand, we find that an Alex exists. In that case now, the next step, based on the determination of the planner, is to go and draft that email. So it goes back to the execution engine, and all of the previous information from the previous step is still retained as context as it determines next steps on an ongoing basis. Now it drafts the email, comes back to the planner to see is there anything else it needs to do, and at that point says, no, I'm done, in which case now it returns the response back. So, in a nutshell, we've talked about Agentforce, we've talked about actions, we've seen how actions are grouped into topics, the importance of descriptive information when creating those actions and when creating those topics. We've talked about the instructions for those, and those being the building blocks to build an agent. So, with that, let's actually go and build one. Sri?
Thanks, Malcolm. Wow, that was a lot of information. I learned a lot too. How are you guys all doing? Still with us? Great, wonderful. So thank you for that information, Malcolm. It was really, really helpful. So now that we've heard a lot of how to actually do stuff, let's maybe pivot out and go ahead and actually do stuff. So in this loaded demo, I'm going to be going ahead and showcasing to you over the next 20 minutes how to go ahead and create custom agent actions. That's what we're going to be doing. So before we do that, I want to establish some ground rules. Let's set some personas up, let's set some use cases, so you understand what we're going to be doing for the next 20 minutes. That guy looks familiar. Meet Jake. Jake's an account executive, and he works for a company called Sure It's Hot Solar. And what Sure It's Hot Solar does is they basically sell solar equipment to individual residences, to big companies. That's what they do. And so today, we're going to go ahead and make Jake's life easy by taking two of his most arduous tasks and using Agentforce to make it simpler for him. The first use case that we have here is generating a meeting plan. Jake wants to go ahead and get all the latest information about an account and all the latest information that he has about opportunity, the news that's available on the internet, take all those things together, put it together, and get a succinct meeting plan. And he would then use this meeting plan to go ahead and have this meeting with his customer, or go ahead and give it to one of his subordinates or his colleagues, or use one of his teammates to say, hey, here's everything that you need to do to go ahead and close this deal. That's the fundamental use case that we're going to be exploring today. If we have time, and if you want, we'll jump into the next use case. The next use case is going to be around a daily catch-up. Things change so fast in Alex's company, in Jake's company, sorry, I'm thinking of your Alex, who's no longer there. So Jake's company, so he wants an ability to go ahead and get a summary of everything that's happening on a daily basis. He wants to know when he comes in on a Monday morning, he wants to know what has happened to his account, what has happened to his contacts over the weekend. And we're actually going to make it a little bit spicier by saying that I also want to go ahead and find out what's happening with the key contacts and what life events or personal events are happening, so I can use that as an opportunity to establish a relationship with my customer. So with that said, before we get started, I'm going to spend another minute. I know we're going to get to the demo, but give me another minute so that I can explain how we're going to do this. So we're going to go ahead for the first part of it, getting that meeting plan. We're going to use a flex prompt template that's going to take in 2 inputs. It's going to take in the opportunity, and it's going to take in the latest news. It's going to take those 2 and provide a meeting plan. And if we get to the second use case, we're going to be using an auto launch flow. Again, now it's flows versus prompt templates. We're going to use that flow to get the key events, top opportunities, top accounts, and all those information. Irrespective of whether it's prompt builder or the flow, the third and the fourth steps are the same. We go ahead and we create agent actions based out of these prompts or flows. Once we create the agent actions, we need to take it and load it into the agents so the agents can use these agent actions to fulfill the request that's coming into them. So we'll do that, and then we'll again test it, preview it, and finally we'll just assume the persona of Jake and see how excited he gets when this is all working. All right, with that said, let's get started. So this is my environment. All right, there you go. This is my environment. I've already have it set up. So if you don't have an environment, or go ahead and get one in Trailblazer, or if you do, make sure that you have the right permissions, you have the right generative AI capabilities turned on. If you don't have the ability to do that, go ahead and talk to your admins to make sure you get that. As I mentioned, for the first use case, we're going to use a prompt builder. Let's go into the setup, and let's go ahead and search for the prompt builder. Once you search for the prompt builder, you choose prompt builder. And we'll go ahead and create a new prompt template. So this prompt template is going to be of the flex type, and the flex prompt templates do not have any out-of-the-box invocations. They can be invoked by an Apex class, they can be invoked by a Copilot action. So we'll use a flex template, and then let's go ahead and start filling up the required information. Let's go ahead and give it a name. We call it DF prepare for a meeting. Great. The API name, as you're aware, comes up automatically. Let's go ahead and get into a habit. Please repeat after me. Let's get into the habit of providing descriptions. It's very important, and I will tell you why once we get into it. So we provide this information, and then now I have to select the sources. I'm going to use opportunity as my first item, and I'm going to go ahead and choose the object as opportunity. This is the one that I'm going to pass in to the prompt itself. I'm also going to add in another text field. I'm calling it news, and it's going to be a free-form text. This I've added in here. This is going to be a placeholder. This field or this variable is going to get populated using another flow that basically will go out to the internet, grab the top 10 news articles for a particular account, and bring that back. So that information that comes back can now be ingested into your prompt that is going to be sent over to the large language model. So we're able to use that construct of flows in this as well. So now that we have the prompt set up, we're actually going to go configured, we're actually going to go ahead and create the prompt itself. I do have a tendency of breaking my prompts down into pre-prompt instructions, the actual input, and the post prompts. In this case, I've given the pre-prompt instructions. Basically, I'm telling the LLM, please create a succinct plan and agenda to help a sales executive at Sure Hot Solar for a meeting with a company name. The company name is a merge field that I've brought in through the resources that are available. And then I've provided additional information about what this company itself is. Remember what Nakam said, the more you give, the better it is. I've informed what Sure Hot Solar does. So now once I have that in, I'm actually going to go in and pull in all my opportunity information. I've given the inputs. I've told it that pull in the entire opportunity snapshot. Again, merge fields. You can pull in from your resources, bring in the entire opportunity snapshot, and then I'm also pulling in the latest news that we're going to get from Flow. Once I have these in, I should be good to go. I'll go ahead and add my post-prompting instructions. These are going to be things such as like make sure the formatting is right, make sure that everything looks good. If you want to use emojis, make sure that you lay them out in bulleted points. Whatever my pet peeves are, I'll throw them there. Once we have this, we can now go ahead and select the model that we want to use. I'm going to go ahead and use our default GPT-4 model, and then I'm ready to test it. So as part of testing, we're going to choose an opportunity. So that this is just testing, I'm going to choose one of the active opportunities. And in the news field, I'm actually going to give, since it's a placeholder, I'm not actually connected it to the flow that's going to go out to the internet. So I'm actually going to give some static news. To make it interesting, I've said this account just got $1 million funding. Let's see how our system takes that into account when creating a meeting plan. So once we have all this information in, we can go ahead and save this prompt. So as you save and preview, I want you to pay attention to the three main aspects of here. The top part is actually your template. That's where every bit of information went in. The bottom part here, that is actually the resolution. This is how the LLM sees the prompt as. As you can see, all the record information, the actual opportunity record, who the owner is, what the value is, every single piece of information is actually coming in from your CRM records. It's grounded in the truth. It's coming in from your trusted CRM sources. And this information, as you can keep scrolling down, we can also see this, the news element is also getting populated here. So it takes all this into consideration, and this is sent to the LLM through the Einstein trust layer with all the security guardrails in place, and the response that comes back is a succinct and a more personalized response for this X-Power organization. You can also see that here it has actually pulled in, the news that we provided. What this allows us to do is that now the agent, sales agent Jake does not have to spend time on creating all this piece of information, but rather he can focus on making sure he has the right information in there and make it more personalized. So his account team on the other end looks at it and says, oh, Jake has done his research. He knows what's happening with our company. So now that we have done this, we'll go back and the next step, once we've created the prompt, is to create the agent actions. So agent actions basically are the ones that the agents will use to go ahead and fulfill your request. We create an agent action by searching for agent actions. Once we search it, we go ahead and click on new agent action. As Nakam mentioned, you can do it as an Apex, flow, or a prompt template. Clearly, this is not a flow. It's going to be a prompt template. We select the prompt template and we give the reference action. That's the DF, prepare for a meeting, that we just created. We go ahead and create this, and we go ahead and hit next. Remember I said get into the habit of providing descriptions? All the descriptions that you put in during creating the prompt or the flows actually gets brought in to the Copilot action as instructions. I've not done a great job in providing this information. Why is this important? This tells the system how to read the input, where does it come from, what should I do with it? For our use case here, I'm going to make it as simple, and I'm going to just give it the instruction that this is the opportunity for which we need to generate a meeting plan. Very simple, but yet conveys what we want to do. And then for the next one on the news, I'm actually going to go ahead and provide that same information. This is the latest news for this specific account. Once I've provided this piece of information, I can go ahead and finish it. I've already done this because I don't trust the demo gods, so I've already done this. And here you can see is the actual agent action that was created. You can see that I've actually gone ahead and created the instructions. I've made sure that these are required for inputs, both the news and the opportunity. Both of them are a must for me to proceed. And I've also gone ahead and made sure that the output is shown in the conversation. What that means is that when the LLM output comes, it is actually presented on the pane on the right-hand side, the Agentforce pane. So now that I have done the 2 out of the 3 steps, the last step is, what do we do? Recap. We created a prompt template. We created an agent action. What do we need to do next? We need to load it into the agent. So we do that by going into, no points for guessing, agents. So we select agents, we go into the agents, we choose the agent that we're looking at. This one's, we named it Einstein Copilot. Again, like Malcolm said, old habits die hard. We open it up in our builder. So here, you can't just go in and throw an agent action into this. You need to actually create a topic. If you can't recollect what Malcolm spoke 10 minutes ago, topics are basically a set of definitions, guardrails, and things that define how your agents will work, what they can do, and what they cannot do. Let's go ahead and create an agent. Before that, let's make sure that it's deactivated. If it's activated, it doesn't work. Here we're creating a new topic. Let's call the topic company research and preparation. This is just a label. Call it something that's easily understandable. Then we give the actual description. This is very, very crucial. This is how the system will know when to choose this topic. It understands your intent, but then what does that intent map into? So I'm actually going to go ahead and say this helps the sales team prepare for a meeting or the latest news or the information on a company. Also, it allows the agents to get the daily catch-up. So understand any of those utterance will translate into this topic. Then we go ahead and give the scope. Very simple. Your job is to do this. In this case, your job is to prepare for a meeting or generate a plan for a meeting. So we provide that piece of information. The next step is to add certain instructions to this agent itself. I like to always add instructions that make my output more readable and easy to use. So I'm actually going to go ahead and say, always format the output in HTML, do not display tags, make it more easy to read. Now I'm also going to go ahead and say, hey, before you go ahead and create a meeting plan, make sure you get the latest news for this particular company. It needs to come off a certain date, get the most latest one. And sometimes agents might be like, hey, I don't have a way to get this news. How do I get it? That's where I'm adding this new tidbit. I'm actually telling the agent, use your actions to go ahead and get the news. So because we have defined another action that actually will go ahead and define and get the latest news. Now that we have created the topic, we have not yet added any of the agent actions to it. So let's go ahead and do that by clicking on the plus icon. I'm actually going to go ahead and choose the action that we just created, which is prepare for the meeting. And I'm also going to choose some of the platform actions. Why? We'll see it shortly why we need to choose these. I'm actually going to get the actions for like identifying an object by name, identifying a record by name, some of these that I feel are required for my agent. I go ahead and hit finish. So now that this step concludes the creation of the agent, and now that the agent also has topics defined and also has actions that you can use. Before we go any further, let's go ahead and save this, and we can go ahead and test it. It's always a great practice to test, wouldn't you agree? Yes, but it's even more important to test it here because what this allows me to do is it allows me to understand how the system is working. Inside the agent builder, you can actually see when I give in a prompt or an instruction, I give a command on the right-hand pane, how is it getting translated? What is the intent? So I'm going to go ahead and say, get me the meeting plan for, I'm actually going to be very specific, for opportunity. Let's call it X power 16K services. So now I've given an opportunity. What the system is doing is analyzing my request. I'm going to read it in my terms. Basically, the system is basically understanding the utterance. It's figuring out what topics to use, and then it's saying, okay, within this topic, what actions to use. I'm actually going in and using those actions now, executing them. I'm actually done. But you asked me to make sure everything is formatted nice, so I'm doing that right now. All right, Sri? Here you go. Boom. There's a response. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this side. I'm going to focus on this one. As you can see, here is the user input. That is the intent. It has identified the intent correctly and identified like, hey, for this intent, I need to get into this topic in order to fulfill this request. And here you can see it is not directly jumped into my custom action. It has used a platform action because the information I gave is not specific enough. So it used one of its platform action to get the actual opportunity, passed it on, and provided me with an output that is specific for this X power opportunity. As you can see, everything is grounded in your CRM records. You also have information about your the news that you provided. So that, in a nutshell, shows me that it's all working. Great. Before we get further, we got 10 minutes to go. Just a quick show of hands. Do we jump into the second demo as well, or do you want to wrap up and have questions? A quick show of hands. You want another demo? That's it, one once. I love it. We're going to go ahead and get into the next demo. For the next demo, our use case here is going to be, we're going to talk about how do I get a daily catch-up. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using flows for this. I'm going to use flows, and I've already created it. I'm not going to bore you all admins here to showcase how to create flows. Rather, I'm actually going to go ahead and walk through the process of how to translate a flow into another agent action and how to unleash it into your agents itself. So as we get started on this, I've gone into my flows. Let's go ahead and choose the flow that we just created. The process is pretty identical between a prompt and the flow. As long as you can build your flows, you can take those flows and make them into an agent actions. So I'm going to jump into this flow. That is the get daily catch up. As you can see, this is a simple auto launch flow. It's basically going to start out and say, I'm going to go ahead and get the most important opportunities for you. How do I define get the important opportunities? For me, my definition of important opportunities are the ones that has a top dollar value, the ones that are going to get closed within the next month or so, the ones that have any change that is happening in the last week that is significant enough, or I have a certain field that says this is important. That's how I would identify the most important opportunity. Then I have the VIP account. I'm actually going to go ahead and find out which of these accounts are the most important ones for me. Once I find that out, remember I said we have something spicy in there? I'm actually going to go in and pull some information using Apex code, pull in their LinkedIn feeds to see what have they done. So my system can now say like, okay, this person has something interesting going on in their life. Why don't you go ahead and reach out to them? And then I'm sending this all back to my system. So once we have this flow created, the next step would be similar to prompts. We need to go ahead and create the agent actions. So the process, similar to prompts, we'll go into agent actions, we'll choose the new agent action, and then we'll go ahead and choose a flow this time instead of a prompt. We'll go and choose the flow that we wanted, and as with every single time, you need to make sure your instructions are clearly populated. Let's go ahead and do that. I've already done it. I'm not going to spend more time on it. So here is the actual agent action that has been set up. Now that we have the agent action done, the last step of the puzzle is to actually put this agent action into the agents. Let's go into the agents, open up the agent, open it up in the builder. I don't actually want to create another topic. I'm just going to use the existing company research topic that I created, and I'm going to add these additional actions to that topic. Very simple. Make sure your agent is not active. Make sure that when that's deactivated, you can go in, hit the plus sign, choose the two options that we have. Look here that I've also included another flow that is actually going to go ahead and get the latest information. If we had time, I would have walked through that one as well, but since we only have 7 minutes, I'm not going to spend some time on it. We're now putting it to test, and I'm able to get the latest news about this organization. As with last time, you can see the intent is identified, the topic is picked, and the custom action is chosen in order to get the response that we want. It gives me the news as of this morning, this afternoon, so all that information that I want is here. Now that we have done this, let's actually take a quick pause and go back and activate our Copilot so that it's ready to use. Let's go ahead and get the persona of Jake. See how it is for Jake. Jake comes into the morning, is all ready to go. He logs into his system and goes into his Agentforce tab up there. And then he goes ahead and asks the question, hey, catch me up on the daily updates. Give me a daily update. So once Jake does it, the system does exactly what we've been seeing, understands his request, and it gives him a response here. It goes ahead and provides him with the information such as, hey, I've sent these emails, I've invited these folks, here is your most important deal. And it actually calls this deal out here as well that I could dig in and see. A little bit of tidbit that I also see is it tells me that Bill actually has a birthday coming up this week. This could be an opportunity for Jake to go ahead and send an email, or better much, he can create another custom action that says send Bill a gift. and the system would then go ahead and see what the total account value is, and then decide what gift should it be sent out to Bill. So everything looks great. I think this is great. I need to go ahead and prepare for a meeting, I being Jake. So, but before I prepare for a meeting, I want to make sure I get the latest information about the company, just to make sure nothing is wonky on the other side. So I'm actually asking my Copilot to do that for me, my agent to do that for me. I'm asking the question, it gives me the latest news. Everything looks nice. I don't have any issues with it. That's the latest, all positive news. So I'm actually a go for this meeting. So I'm actually going to go ahead and ask my agent to say, all right, everything's good. Get me a meeting plan so that I or my colleagues can go ahead and close this deal. So we go ahead and use the other flow, and we're going to go ahead and ask the same question here, saying, hey, create me a meeting plan for the specific account. There you go. It's created a very succinct and meeting plan that actually takes every single piece of information that we already spoke about. So I know we went through this pretty quick, but fret not, don't worry. If you have your phones, now is a good time to go ahead and scan this QR code, because this is going to take you to a trail that you can use to practice. It brings you to a trail where you'd be able to practice most of what we just discussed here. So with that said, I'm actually going to go ahead and send it back over to Malcolm to wrap it up.
Thank you, Sri. That was amazing. So we have about 4.5 minutes left. If anybody has any questions, we can probably take 1 or 2 questions. Yes?
You mentioned the LLM output, and so I'm assuming you're pulling the data exclusively from within Salesforce. But because you said LLM, that means it's opened up to anything else. Is that a fair statement, number one? And number two, how do you determine what that output looks like for formatting for, so that it is pretty for everybody to see?
Okay, so the second question was how we determine the formatting. And the first one was with regards to the LLM output. What is it everything staying within Salesforce, or does it actually go out?
Correct.
So the first answer is absolutely it goes out. Essentially, today, we are using a number of LLMs. So there's Anthropic, there's OpenAI, there's Azure OpenAI, which also allows you to be geographically local in case, for example, you may be in Europe. You can leverage that as well. So we do go out to those LLMs. With each LLM provider that we use, we have a zero retention policy, so that essentially when we ask a question to the large language model, our agreement, and we actually verify and audit this, is that they answer and then forget everything. So what that means then is there's no retention, which is kind of interesting because if you think about a conversation, you need to remember what I just said to ask the next question. We retain all that context internally.
So you have to query it multiple times.
So if you want to refine the response, then that's another round trip to the LLM. But we tell it essentially, here's what we told you, here's our last interaction. Based on this last interaction, now do this. So essentially, the large language model always forgets every interaction that we have with it.
Just to add another point to that, not only do we have zero retention, we also have legal guardrails in place to make sure that they cannot use any of these data to train their models. So that's another provision that we provide. Contractual obligations with all those LLM providers.
Any other questions? Yes.
So, like, Agentforce is kind of a rebrand of Copilot. It lost additional features. What would you say the additional features are in comparison to?
So the question is, Agentforce versus Copilot. We said that Agentforce essentially has a bunch of additional new features. What are those additional new features that we said exist? That's a great question. Those additional features primarily center around the enhancements that we made to the planner, so that you have this concept of topics which did not previously exist, which makes the agents essentially a lot more intelligent and gives them the ability to do things that with a flat hierarchy of actions they would not have had the ability to do. It also reflects some directional capabilities that Salesforce has with regards to autonomous agents. So everything we've seen here is very much still human in the loop, and we would still say that that's very much a suggested practice. You want to be able to review what you get back from your Einstein or your large language models. However, down the road, potentially, we could see opportunities for autonomous agents. Certainly, Mark Benioff has talked a lot about that, and we've heard a lot about that. So we see that in the future as well, which also drives some of the rebranding away from just a co-pilot, which implies I ask you something, you give me something back, to something that could potentially really work autonomously. Sure.
Then the whole omni-channel, having different channels to deliver these agents, that's also completely new.
Right. So I think we're just about out of time. I want to thank you so much for your time, for being here. I hope this provided value. Thank you so much. Thank you.